feedback from you guys. What is one thing that you can think of that you learned from your father, from your dad? That was a good thing.
How to tell that.
How to tell dad to. Okay. I'm afraid my kids would echo that one. Some more.
How to harness a horse and pick up a wagon.
Cool.
How to say I was a left wing when it's not necessary.
Perfect. Some more.
How to work when you don't feel like it.
Work when you don't feel like it. Good stuff. Anybody else? What did your dad teach you? To do what when you don't want to? To do things that you don't even want to. That's a very important thing to learn. Otherwise, you wouldn't get much good stuff done in life. Forgiveness. Sorry?
Work ethic.
Work ethic. I'm sorry. To worship when it's hard. Very good. We could go on for a while, I'm sure. One of the things I thought of when I thought of this question for myself was prayer. He taught me how to pray. My dad, he's 85 right now, so he's lived with us for a while. And when I was really young, he would, all my life long, he has prayed out loud with his family. But when I was young, and when he was young, that would have been a little bit more uncommon. A lot of people, a lot of dads didn't really pray out loud with their family, so he did something that was somewhat new. There was others that did it, my understanding, but not everybody. So, something I'm grateful for that he was willing to teach his kids how to pray, show them how to pray, to talk to the Father, talk to God authentically like he did. So that's something I'm grateful for. I came across a poem, a Father's Day poem, I thought I would read. And it comes from the perspective of the way I understand it. The author, that she was saying that a lot of times on Mother's Day, the message is all about praising the mothers and how awesome they are and just really make them feel really good. And on Father's Day, typically, it's different. On Father's Day, they get challenged. They're like, be this strong person. So it's Father's Day is typically a challenging message, and Mother's Day is a praise message. I don't know, obviously it's not always like that, but I thought, well, that's probably actually kind of true. So this poem is kind of written from that perspective of let's praise the fathers as well. So it says, "'Tis Father's Day across our land, in countless pulpits preachers stand, with points prepared that plainly show the areas where a man should grow. But while they quote statistics dark and tell of men who've missed the mark, I bow in gratefulness to say a prayer of thanks this Father's Day. For men whose lives are pure and strong, courageously resisting wrong. For men of true integrity who sacrifice for family. For those who read the word and pray and meditate on God each day. For those whose hearts are generous, who serve with joy and readiness. To those who labor long and hard around the house and in the yard, who let the children tag along, who join in childish game or song. To those who check the squeaky brakes and all the sounds the engine makes, who brave the cold, endure the heat, to change a tire or fix a leak. For men who open sluggish drains, who scrape the gravel in the lanes, who trim the shrubs or drop a tree, who live in truth and honesty. Send every man, O Lord, I pray, a blessing rich So it's kind of weird. I'm actually kind of thankful that I don't know what I would do about that. But success then, as the world looks at it, is maybe not the way God looks at it. I guess that's kind of an obvious point that I'm getting at, or I will be getting at as we get along. But that's the one side of success, is the cultural success around us. There's also different cultures in the world, and they value success differently. So now we've been talking about an American culture. There's cultures in the world that value success a whole lot differently than the U.S. does. There's cultures in the world where the fatter you are, the more successful you are. That's a symbol of success. And that just simply means that you have lots to eat. So the more the bigger and the heavier you are, the more successful. It's a status symbol of success. Other cultures is if you don't have to do any work, you're successful. So you can get to the point where the servants do all the work and you don't need to do any work. You just kind of wander around your house and your yard and don't ever have to do any work. Then that's success. Kind of along that same route is fingernails. There's cultures where if you have really long fingernails, the longer your fingernails are, the more successful you are. It's a status symbol. Pretty much where that comes from. Well, you don't have to, if your fingers can be long, that means fingernails can be long, that means you don't have to do any manual work. You don't have to put any finger. So you can let your nails get as long as you want. There's cultures where large extended families are a success symbol. The more children you have, the more grandchildren, the more cousins and people around you that you're supporting, the more successful you are. So your family and your extended family around you is a strong symbol of success. That actually is a little bit more biblical family than the long fingers. But richest men in the world, like the top 5 richest men in the world. I didn't study all of them, but most of them. I did. Actually, I did check into all 5 of the top richest men in the world, and based on what the internet knows of them, they are not necessarily religious. They may be, and just don't really talk about it. We don't know exactly, or they're anyone's work which he has built on it endures, he will receive a reward. If anyone's work is burnt, he will suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet so is the fire. I think this talks about eternity and how our works will be judged there, but I also feel like it fits this application very well too, where on this earth when we face trials, when we face times when we're devastated by something going very wrong, there too, the things that we have built up in our life and that we have made as part of the fabric of who we are and the way we operate, it's only the things of God, the solid, foundational character parts that are godly that will sustain us in those tough times. Job was an example in the Bible of one who had great success, even in the eyes of the world. He was successful financially, he was successful with his family, he was successful with his influence, with the people around him. He was successful in every way you can really imagine. And then all of a sudden, a day of testing came. It's a very stunning story where you can even read about God and the strategy that God had in talking with the devil and the two of them talking about this righteous man and his success and his foundation in his heart and in his life, and how this day of testing came for him. And he dramatically lost everything that was success by any earthly standard. He lost it all. And yet what did he do? What carried him through during that time? Was it not God? Was it not fruits of the Spirit that came out? Obviously not perfectly. Even there, we read of him getting frustrated, of him questioning God. So he wasn't perfect, but he did display the fruits of the Spirit in a way, and he had a solidness or a strength or a wisdom of what was happening more than what his friends did when he talked to him. His friends had the idea that the only way that this can happen is if you sin. Like they latched onto the belief that if God is with you, then we will be successful in all these ways. And now all those success symbols were taken away from them. So obviously something's wrong. That was their simple formula of how this works. And it's pretty clear that they were wrong. God himself tells them that they were wrong. And that Job was right. Job was the only one who had the correct perspective of what was going on. And yes, in the end, God restored all those things that he had lost. So he had those successful or those prosperity things back too. But it was very clear in the middle and between that time that he was still successful because he did not curse God and die like he was encouraged to. So he had a foundational success, a foundational fruits of the Spirit are there, that is an accurate reflection. But these other things are not. Now, this doesn't mean to say that success in our health and in our finances and in our people, like social popularity and stuff, that's anti-God. It doesn't mean that that's a sign of, if you have that, then you're now not spiritually connected to God. But it's lower on the list of priorities. It's a much lower, less important, less things by importance that are way down, that are not that important. That doesn't mean that that we're now out looking for hard times, or that we purposely try to become poor and broken and all of that. That's not what I'm saying. I don't believe that's what the Bible will teach. But just so that we would have the right perspective and have focus on what is important and not on what's not important. Learning to respond well when things are not going well, that's kind of the ultimate test of our success. Do we respond well when things are not going well? It's easy to respond well when things are going well, but what about when things are not going well? How do you react and how do you respond? That's the true test. And another thing, it's actually, if our life in general isn't that easy, if we have, again, kind of not like this football player I just talked about, who had anything going for him and had an easy life, a person who has more trials and troubles on a day-to-day basis actually has an advantage over the guy who has very little hard things in his life. When the day of testing comes, the person that had more troubles and trials along the way, and weaknesses or whatever, maybe physical struggles with their physical health, things like that, they have an advantage when their strong day of trouble, their strong day of testing, kind of like Job, they will have an advantage over the guy who had an easy life because he's more used to it, and it doesn't shock their system so much as it is somebody who just has an easy life and very little opposition or very little struggle. So there's another verse that says, consider it all joy when you fall into various trials. So that's kind of the point, or another point of my message is not to resist and think that everything's going terribly wrong if there's something hard. Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble. But don't worry, I have overcome the world. So there's an overcomer that we can connect to that makes these trials all of a sudden much less important. And then they actually become good for us, and we can grow through them, and they become fertilizer in our life where we grow through them rather than that they devastate. That's how we can approach them with joy. That's how we can actually, how our joy can increase when there's some tough to go through. And I'm not saying this from a perspective of having graduated from that class. It's hard. When things get hard to then actually remain stable and to have the joy of the Lord still welling up inside of you. That's not